I'm Justin Lesko, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and former pro MMA fighter. I am very excited about our guest today, but before I tell you about him, I want to remind you that you can get 15% off the best collection of Jiu Jitsu and MMA gear and apparel out there by visiting epicrollbjj.com and using the coupon code PODCAST15. If you want to look your best while you're on the mat, Epic Roll has you covered with rash guards, gis, and fight shorts. If you want to look your best off the mat, they've got you covered there too with t-shirts, joggers, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Anything you could possibly want or need related to Jiu-Jitsu, Epic Roll has you covered. epicrollbjj.com, coupon code podcast15, and the link is in the description below. Joining me on the show today is a former UFC fighter and veteran of The Ultimate Fighter. He was also the first American to win the IBJJF Pan Ams at blue, purple, and brown belt. Now retired from fighting, he has a long list of notable former and current students like two-time UFC bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw, Curtis Blades, Alistair Overeem, Neil Magny, and Corey Sandhagen, just to name a few. He also hosts a podcast called The Gospel of Fire and has written a book of the same name. I have a lot I want to ask him about, so please welcome to the show, Eliot the Fire Marshall. Thank you so much for coming on, Eliot. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me on, man. I'm the one who hit you up to see if we could do it. So, I have my own podcast too. And I would say that my favorite podcasts are with people that I've never met before. And we like go through this journey of like figuring each other out together, finding conversation. And I really enjoy that piece of podcasting because it's like jiu-jitsu, right? It's like you have to figure out each individual puzzle, like what opens a conversation for one person does not open the conversation with the other and doesn't even get the conversation going all the time. So, which I think is one of the biggest, in my perspective, one of the biggest problems in the world that we're having right now is we're not like, even before COVID, like speaking to each other. We're speaking around each other and about each other and over each other, but we're not actually talking with each other.
Yeah, I think people get so entrenched in, like, this goes for all aspects. It goes for jiu-jitsu technique and the world in general. People get so entrenched in their own stuff and their own view on things. And like, whether we have different opinions about taking the back or different opinions about like political shit, if you're not open to anybody else's view, you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over, and that's not growing or getting better. So I think that's a good lesson from jiu-jitsu is listen to what other people have to say, and it's probably going to be different than you, but that's usually a net positive if you can listen to what someone else has to say.
I believe the mat teaches us every lesson. There's not a single lesson that the mat doesn't teach. So, it's cool. Jiu-jitsu is cool as far as like the physical, like doing the sport, being a champion, and all that's really great. And I went down that path and I did that path, and it was a journey of mine. I never achieved that goal. I never became the world champion at anything that I did. But to say that what jiu-jitsu has given me the most, first of all, it's people that love me, and a community of people to at large be connected with, and then super minute, like my closest friends and my closest students, everybody is from the mat. So to say that jiu-jitsu has given me everything outside of my mom and my dad, it's the truth.
Well, usually the first question we ask people when they come on the show is, how did you come to find jiu-jitsu? And jiu-jitsu's given you this big gift. How did you happen to find the sport?
I did karate my whole life. From the time I was 6 until the time I was like 17, 18. And it was the summer of 1997. And in that style of karate, one of my friends John Hassett, he's actually a black belt in jiu-jitsu under the Migliarese brothers, Helson. He did like the old man's division of the national tournament for this style of karate. And look, it's point sparring. So there's like, you spar your friends in tournaments.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, old man, what are you doing? Like, come on, step your game up, son. And he was like, yeah, really? I was like, why don't you come to my house tomorrow, next Friday night? I was like, sure. Should I bring the crutches? You know what? I don't even remember. So I don't even know what I said, but I talk shit, right? So this was 1997, 1998, right? He just beat the dog shit out of me. And I was like, what is this? I went and I rented all the UFCs that were out.
Yeah, yeah.
So I tried to learn as much jiu-jitsu as I could, but like the closest school was the Migloricis, or at the time Maxercise. Steve Maxwell ran
Yeah,
the
yeah,
school
yeah,
in
yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in New Jersey. I grew up right outside of Philadelphia. I live in New Jersey now. I
Got it.
grew up in Levittown, right outside of Philadelphia.
I grew up in Franklinville.
Yeah, I was like creeping on your Wikipedia and stuff today doing research. So I was trying to work in New Jersey as subtly as I could because I knew you were also from Jersey.
The Dirty Jerk. Oh, yeah. Where were we? So yeah, so I tried to learn as much as I can, but I was a high school kid, lived an hour away. I couldn't drive to the city. Uh, and so I didn't really do much. And then I moved to Colorado. I met my now teacher and business partner Amal in a mall. He was doing one of those like booths, try jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I ran out of money. Really, man, if I'm being honest, I got my first like real girlfriend. I was kind of a
Yeah.
dork in high
All those
school.
cliches of you stop training because the girl. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So and I did run out of money. I had no money too. I heard that Amal opened up his own school, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna go see if he needs a cleaner. And I go down there, and man, it's my lucky day. He goes, you know what? Cleaner just quit like 2 hours ago. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah. And now I'm the owner with him.
Yeah, man.
Like cleaner to owner is possible.
Well, if you don't mind, we're gonna hit a few stops along that story. I want to get some more of that story out of you. But so you were doing jujitsu. There's sort of a natural progression from jujitsu into MMA. But did you think MMA was like, okay, this is my goal, or it just kind of happened
So the reason organically?
I
I did jujitsu is because I saw the UFC, and I wasn't popular at all in high school. I had no friends. I didn't fit in any way. The only place that I fit in was in this martial arts arena, karate. Right. So that's all my friends were from karate, minus like one person. Um, so my senior year, like that, when I was talking shit to John Hassett, I started to lose some weight. Right. And like I was just a late bloomer in every way. So like that baby fat was so many reasons, which is part of my story, that we'll probably get into in a minute. So many reasons why I didn't fit in, and so what'd you ask me? Shit, see,
How did, yeah, how'd you get into fighting?
Started to make some friends. When I started to make some friends, I started to be like, yo, I'm gonna fight in the UFC. So, and I had always said this, right? Like, this is what I always said. And you know how, like, when did you start jujitsu?
What year is it now? Probably 2012, 2013.
This is how I separate jujitsu generations. If you did jujitsu only in Brazil, when it was only in Brazil, then you're not even counted. We leave you out. But then everything else for me is based on Henzo's school. If you knew Henzo, when he was with Craig Kukoc, you're an OOG.
Okay.
That's what you right.
All right.
Now, if you knew Henzo when his school was above the methadone clinic and you were training with Henzo when it was like when you had to ride up the elevator with the meth heads, then you're an OG, right? And then if you're post methadone clinic, you're just a G.
Okay.
So whenever you start, so you're a G. You're
I'm
not
all
an
right.
OG.
I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take it.
So anyway, in the OG days and the OOG days, jiu-jitsu guys were fighters, right? Like even if you didn't fight MMA, you were still considered a fighter. So like a fighter, So, I got a job at a bar and I was the fighter at the bar, but I didn't really fight yet and yada, yada. I was just doing jiu-jitsu and everyone's like, oh, when are you going to fight? And then, I was a brown belt. And one day, I got done training, sitting, taking a shower. And my wife looks at me and she goes, hey, this whole bar thing is really fine and whatever. You work at a bar and teach private lessons and that's great. And you're killing it on the jiu-jitsu scene. But none of that makes any money because there's no fight to win, right? Like there's none of this. So get a job or fight. And I was like, oh.
Usually it goes the other way. Usually the wife is like, I don't want you fighting anymore. But she was a big push for you and obviously was supportive of the whole journey.
She said, get a job and get your fucking life going or fight and get your life going.
So you had a good option between. boring job or at least do what I want to do and get my life going.
I had been successful so far, right? It didn't, it made, like I was winning the
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu tournament. It wasn't like I was losing. I mean, the first time she ever saw me compete, it was kind of hilarious. Uh, I I had just come back off an injury, and it was a grappler's quest.
Okay.
And at the time, I don't know how the divisions go now, but at the time, the grappler's quest divisions were if you were 2 years and up, it was advanced. We were super new to the game, but everyone knows if 2 years, if you're a blue belt, you don't enter advanced.
Yeah.
But we didn't know this, so I enter advanced because that's what it says I'm supposed to enter. And I was 200 and I don't know, 18 pounds. The cutoff for the not heavy division was 210. And, I'm training, yada, yada, but then I hurt my knee and I can't run. And this is like before anybody really knew how to lose weight or anything like that. Do the ultra fat man division. And I'm 218 pounds soaking wet at that time. And I get this guy that's like 280 pounds, 290 pounds. And he beats me real quick. And my wife and I had driven out to Vegas with the team. Like too poor to fly. Have to stay in the circus. All I've talked about up to this point is I want to be the champion. She's never even seen me compete, right? Like yada yada yada. And she's just like, oh God, I have a boyfriend that's really into something and he sucks.
Yeah.
She's like, what did I get my fucking self into?
I heard this guy talk about this for years and years, and now I go out and watch it, and this is what it goes.
It was only 6 months or so, if something small, but fuck, man, it was
not a good first impression. Well, when you started fighting, how long between full training MMA to the Ultimate Fighter? What was that time frame?
6 fights, so 2 years.
And does Colorado, do you have to do amateur first, or is it just like
no one would take an amateur fight with me?
Oh, okay.
I'm in Colorado, right? Like I'm a champion. It's hard to get amateur fights, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not going to compare myself to the Clarissa Shields, for example.
Yeah.
But she ain't getting fucked. She's fighting.
Yeah.
She's fighting one of my friends, Brittany, and it's her first MMA fight, but she's fighting a girl that's a jiu-jitsu, pretty good at jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah.
And has, like 20 fights or something. So look, I had 6 fights, man, and I was in the UFC. I'm not a natural born killer like that.
Yeah.
Like that's, I'm not Rampage.
Yeah.
Like, learning to fight, I don't even think I learned. Like I can't say that I mastered how to fight until I don't believe I don't believe I've mastered it, but I've gotten better at learning how to fight and how to prepare a fighter mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all these things, but I didn't do it for myself.
Being on the show, that had to be a very life-changing thing for you.
Worst before my mental breakdown, before what I call my mental breakdown / spiritual awakening, it was the worst 6 weeks of my life. Shit was brutal.
It was brutal being there, or was it brutal afterwards, or just the whole experience?
The afterwards is great. Being there was terrible because you're locked in a house. It's prison.
Like you have no connection to the outside world, right? Like no nothing, no anything.
I remember one time on that show, we just asked them to drive us down the strip because they wouldn't let you see, like they took back roads all the time and, or highways. And it was like 5 weeks into the 6.5 weeks, they drove us down the strip and everyone was just like glued to the window, just staring at people like we were fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
Because like you've had zero connection.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I fucking hated it. I wasn't broke and living in my mom's couch. Right. If you're broke and living on your mom's couch, you love it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like living with your homies. You can get all the alcohol you want.
Which is for a reason, obviously. They're trying to pump as much alcohol as possible. But
dude, there's a phone in the house, right? That you can call the producers with. And it just rings right to them. If you were like, yo, I forgot something for my dinner and I need an onion, let's say. They were like, yep. Sorry, shit out of luck. If you were like, yo, we're gonna get a little crazy, get us a case.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Makes good TV. Onions don't make good TV, but a case makes good TV.
Dude, my show was brutal, bro.
Yeah.
My show was brutal. Like the things that they didn't air, like the things that they couldn't air because the FCC said no. Man, to the point where like I had to take my plate, a fork, a knife, and a spoon, a bowl, and all that, and I had to wash it every night and put it under the bed because something was happening. People were doing things to people's food.
Yeah. It was like a frat house at a time in your life when you were not prepared to live in a frat house. Or
I was married.
Yeah.
I was married trying to get my life to get like really like pushing my life, and this was not what I wanted.
So after you get out of the house and the show airs, and like you said, you're 6-ish fights in and you're in the UFC. What is that ride like? Is there a moment where you're like, what am I doing here? Or is there a moment where you're like, okay, now I know I belong here and I'm ready to go?
I never had that moment.
No?
The belong here, ready to go. If I'm being completely honest, I always was filled with doubt, and I didn't know how to, because I was fighting for the wrong reason, right? I was fighting for acceptance from other people,
Okay.
right? So I am the son of an African American dad, and who grew up obviously doing civil rights, just age wise, right? And my mom, her parents were Holocaust survivors, right? Like a Jewish white lady and a black dude having married, and like it's 1980. It's not
Yeah.
like yeah, it's just what the times. So, and I grew up in a town where, like, the high school quarterback knew he was going to be the high school quarterback because his dad was, granddad was, big brother was, yada yada, right? I grew up in one of those kind of towns. So when we moved there, and our house was getting spray painted, swastikas and Nigers go home. They couldn't quite spell the word right.
Well, racists are idiots. I mean, it just by definition, they're idiots.
But for me as a kid, right, you don't understand that. And then when your grandparents are telling you Hitler's coming again, right, and there's sugar and food like in a storage container from like 1979 and it's 1990, you're like, what the hell's going on? Like, why? So I'm no fault to them, right? Because how could they not prepare for the Nazis again? That was a crazy experience. And how could my dad not prepare for his experience growing up in the 1950s and 60s, right? Like as an African American. So the danger of the world was always there, and it came true. No one was my friend, right? I wasn't allowed to. I could go to somebody's house and play in the front yard, but I wasn't allowed in the house. I could, like, stuff like that, right?
I just don't
So
understand people, dude. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt your story, but I just don't understand people. I just don't get it. I'm not trying to step on your story, but man.
it's what it was, though, right? So we can try to understand, not understand, but this was my life. I did fit in at karate, though. Like, martial arts was my home. And it was like, when you look at me versus my sister didn't have that. And my sister's a mess, her life is just a mess. And it has been ever since she was 10 years old, where karate was like, my martial arts was my savior, right? It was there for me. So, but as far as that experience, like, I was always fighting for this acceptance. I wanted to be the cool kid, right? I wanted to have a friend. I wanted to not sit by myself at at lunchtime, because these are the times that are supposed to be fun for everyone, and they were not for me. And I probably didn't make it easier on myself either, like the trying so hard. So that's why I fought,
Yeah.
that's why I fought, because I wanted that, like, I wanted the acceptance um and all of that. And when the cage closes, your insecurities scream. So as much as I wanted the acceptance, I also knew what the failure meant. The failure meant ridicule. The failure meant people pushing you away. The failure meant all of these things, right? So um, I could never, my truest self, the truest expression of the martial artist that I was, could never come out. It came out in like glimpses. It would happen in moments, like the Brandon Vera fight, the last round of my career. Um, I'm sitting on the stool and Greg Jackson looks at me and goes, "What you got left?" And like, I mean, like, I can remember that moment, like, like it's happening now. I can feel where he was. Like, I was sitting here, he's off to my left, like, such a poignant moment in my life. And I went and I found that place, that Buddhism talks about it, like the duality of things, like the place where I was willing to die was also the place where my greatness was, like they both exist in the same exact spot. I was able to find that, and then you can go watch that round, and there it was. But I wasn't able to call on that, and that's what the greats can do, right? They can call on that. So yeah, fighting didn't work out. I mean, I know that's probably weird. You're like, what do you mean fighting didn't work out, man? You fought in the UFC.
Well, I mean, it's fighting. It's working out or not working out is the perspective of the doer and the fighter. So
the goal was world champion. Didn't work out.
yeah,
Right. So we opened these schools. We opened these big, like, I partnered with them all. and killed it, right? Like 7 schools. And
I want to circle back just to what you touched on before. Do you think now opening the schools, having the schools, did that give you the acceptance you were looking for? Are you still chasing the acceptance, or are you just past it a little bit?
I try really hard not to chase the acceptance, right? But who's perfect? Um, I wouldn't say I chase the acceptance. I chase not to be pushed away, right? I still have that insecurity in my life, right? Of, not being accepted. I don't chase people's acceptance, but I do have like the insecurity of, oh man, that they might leave me. There's more to the story here, right? So 2016 comes, the schools are going well. I don't know, we got 3 at the time. I'm not sure what I had. Life's great, and then life's not great. No sleep, right? Can't sleep, panic attack all through the night, right? All night, 5 nights in a row, losing my mind. Needed help, needed help. Massive, intense, acute anxiety. And I had to get some help. Not like checked in help or anything like that. And my family and jiu-jitsu saved me. And it gave me a whole perspective shift of my life. Starting with, first of all, like if we're gonna keep it very jiu-jitsu routed,
You don't have to. You can go off on any tangent you want, man. I just
yeah, I'll start with the jiu-jitsu route though. I got to see that it was my privilege, and yes, super successful at jiu-jitsu, and yes, sure, MMA, fought in the UFC, but it was my privilege that any one person would ever come to spend an hour with me and take my class. And starting that day, I have never taken money again to teach jiu-jitsu.
you view it as its own worth, the ability to teach and have those students come learn from you.
So and I know everyone's like, dude, you got 7 schools. What the fuck are you talking about? We take money to take you on a life journey. We're going to change your fucking life. And that has a cost, right? The way we could do that is through martial arts, but I don't get paid to teach a class. I don't take money to teach a private lesson. When I teach a seminar, we donate that money, right? I donate every single penny, or give it to a charity, or give it back, or teach the seminar for free. When I was competing, I think I'm done competing, I'm pretty sure. But when I was competing, Fight to Win Pros, right? All that money got donated to people who suffered with anxiety, So I would pay for their therapy or whatever it was, because I was so lucky that I had this community of mine, like Easton, more importantly, where my friends would stay up with me all night while I just panic attacked, and I'm talking, they stayed up every night for a month with me. They would like rotate, like, all right, you got to stay up with Eliot tonight, and they did, right? And that all came from jiu-jitsu. 90% of people in the world right now, like if you have a problem and you have this acute anxiety like I have, when you call your doctor, you've got like a 3-week waiting period before you're getting in to see your doctor. And that was not my case. I got medicine right away. I got therapy right away. I got every fucking thing I needed. And it all came from this community of jiu-jitsu that I had, and my mom and dad. So
Minus not having a community for reasons, we'll say just reasons, mental health is like a stigma, and it's people will struggle, I think, just even asking for help. And if you don't have anyone to ask, that's got to be an even bigger hurdle than just trying to get help.
it's hard enough to ask. It's hard enough to ask. It's even harder if you don't know who to ask or how to ask or what to ask. If you don't know, then anybody else is dealing with this demon, this devil that I like to call it. Like you feel so alone, and you're scared and ashamed and all these things to talk about it. And you don't know what to do. So that became my goal. My goal with the schools, for example, is I don't want anyone that's part of our school to ever have to feel alone again. Like I felt alone my whole childhood
Right.
fighting. It gave me that gift, I was lucky enough to have that gift. And in my childhood, I was lucky enough to have 2 parents that were amazing parents. Like as difficult as my childhood was, my parents and my grandparents, they fucking loved me.
You're trying to pay it forward and give that community back, that the next person who might need what you needed when you were growing up. Yeah.
Whoever it is that needs us, that needs this community, that will stand with them and that will do whatever it takes to make sure that they have a good life, and that's not money, that's not fame, and that's not anything, but a good life is people with you, right? People with you that are there for you when you are rising, and that are there for you when you're falling, and so this is the most important thing. This is the biggest problem that I think we have in the world currently, is we love to pull people down. We love to pull people down, and we do that in many different ways. Some of those ways is we put them up on this pedestal, and we put them on this pedestal only so that we know they're human, and we know they're going to fail. And when they fail, let's go, baby, let's drive that stake in. And it's not good. It's not good.
I think sometimes it's easier to pull others down than it is to pull yourself up. And if you can
Well,
look
why
at
are we pulling others down?
right, like because people don't want to or don't know how to pull themselves up. So the way they level is to pull the people they think are on the pedestal, quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes for audio only
Yeah,
people,
no, of course.
back down to their level. And I don't know how to fix that culture. Like I don't know how to fix that mentality that people have.
This right here.
And jujitsu. Talking in jujitsu,
Talking in jiu-jitsu, exactly. Two people we've never met before, right? This is our first time ever speaking, but we're talking, in my opinion, about some real life things, how to deal with another person. For me, I have this really interesting thing going on. Some of my students that I work closest with are female, and I connect very well with females personally when I meet them. Not that I don't with males, but I do definitely personally with females. But online, it's males, right? Because they look at me and they're like, "Oh shit," Uh, I I believe, excuse me, I believe we have a fucking male problem. We have a male problem in the world. We have men that aren't showing up and being men uh, in a lot of ways in their lives. A lot of ways. First of all, with not being in touch with their feelings, not being in touch in actually how they're feeling. Because we have to realize that our feelings will affect our behaviors, whether we want to admit that or not admit that. So are we aware of even just what a feeling is?
Yeah, it's not a weakness to talk about like your emotions or how you feel about things. Like that doesn't make you weak if you aren't like there's like I said, there's still that stigma that it comes from like mental health or insecurity, and it's
You watching the movie 8 Mile?
yep.
Great, right? So at the end, when Eminem, right, and whatever his name was, but Eminem's character
Yeah.
was gonna he was rap battling Papa Doc,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all this bad shit had happened to him, right? Like he choked all the time. You know, his buddy fucked his mom. His buddy fucked his girl. He had all these terrible things that happened to him, and he got to go first in this rap battle with Papa Doc. And what he did was, when you watch the movie, he just raps about all the shit that Papa Doc's gonna say. He's like, yeah, homie banged my chick, and yeah, my mom's this, and yeah, that, and yeah, this, and blah blah blah. This is where I'm awful. These are all of my weaknesses, insecurities, and vulnerabilities. Go.
Yeah, like what are you gonna say?
So but I think that's real life, man.
Yeah.
Here, this go ahead. This is where I'm not so great. This is where, look, I just told everyone, the whole world, or whoever listens to the podcast, that like I'm scared. Like I have this fear that people will leave me. I can have this fear that I won't sleep at night. I have this, and sometimes I'll mask that with bravado, because that's what worked for me in the past. I try not to do it so much now. I try to be super aware of that. If you would like to talk about my feelings, I'll talk about my feelings and my insecurities. I wrote a whole book about my vulnerabilities and my anxiety.
You put it out there for everyone to read, so it's you nothing to hide.
What you gonna use, man?
Yeah.
If you want to say I fought like a bitch, good. Yeah, probably you're right.
Well, they're not right, but I get the point.
Like, yeah, I wasn't Rampage going to kill somebody with Vanderlei, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like go out, die on my shield, but I don't got to scream that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you that I am, because it's okay. I'm nobody. I don't know. I just don't feel the need. And I feel like that males especially have this need right now to scream how great they are. I'll tell a story real fast. It just happened. I did my little podcast about it. I do a motivational every Monday. And I walked out on my kid's lacrosse field, he plays one of my kids, they both play lacrosse, but I walked out on the field and I look over and the dad, he's got a hat that says lion, not sheep, and a shirt that says fucking lion, not sheep. And I'm just like, God damn it. And like the unskillful me, I don't know why. Maybe I was having a bad day or something. I wanted to walk over to him and be like, yo, homie, you want to find out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael Jordan wear a fucking t-shirt that says 6-time finals MVP, something final. No, Lions don't tell anybody they're a fucking lion.
But it's just like a false bravado. Like, it's just.
I'm really trying in situations like that. I'm really trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, man, maybe I just happened upon this person on the worst day of their life.
Right. Right.
Their mom died and their mom got cancer, their dog died, and their girl left them. Right? All within the last hour. And like I bump into them or took their parking spot or I looked at them funny. Now the lion's not sheep thing, I'm a fucking
Yeah, that's
like
you're
like
asking for it at that point, but
and wear that fucking t-shirt,
You might as well have shown up with gloves and a mouthpiece because you want to go to.
Man, I was just like, So I try to always let it slide now, even the dude, like, he didn't do anything with his t-shirt, right? But like I was feeling a certain way that was on me. I try to always let it slide, just because it's just not worth it. Like again, what if it's the dude's worst day? And if I look like a bitch, then cool, I look like a bitch.
Yeah. I try to avoid being the bad guy in anybody's story. If someone's telling a story and there's a bad guy, I try to make it not be me.
For me, it comes down to, and this is part of the big problem, I think we don't know who we are as humans. Like, and we want to define ourselves in these really rigid ways. And I try to, I'm reading a lot of Buddhism right now about the no self piece. But I do feel as though we need some ground to stand on. So like when you ask yourself, who are you? Like, what does it mean to be Justin? What does it mean to be Eliot? Like, what are those things? Like, can you tell me what that means? Like, is it the skin that I have? Is it this bald head? But what does it mean to be me? And I've thought about that a lot. And when I know who I am, no outside external thing can touch me. So, for example, I'm a father. I'll be those kids, my two boys, right? I'll be their dad until I die. I'll be their dad after I die. Like, because when they're alive and I'm not, someone goes, yo, who's your dad? And they're going to go, Eliot. When they die and their kids are alive, their kids are going to go, yo, somebody's going to go, who is your granddad? Eliot. Right? So that's a truth. It's just an always truth. Now, look, I don't always play the role as father, but I'm always a dad, right? I'm always going to be a teacher. Like somebody, like my students, when forever, I'll be their teacher. I will always be a Mal's student first and foremost. Yeah, we're business partners and we're all these other things, right? But I'm his student. I'm his student first. I'm my parents' student, right? They taught me so many things. I'm a fighter. You can't deny it, right? And I'm fighting still. We all have this fighter piece in us, this warrior. And then most importantly, this really links for me back to my grandparents and the Holocaust. Like, I'm a survivor. Like, I will survive. And all of those things combined, they just make me enough. But there's no external event. Nothing can happen. There's no this or that can touch any of those things. Right? So like, good day. Okay, those things are still true. Fuck it. Let's go. Great day. Amazing day. Doesn't change any of those things. Right? Like, you drop $10 million, boom, right there next to me. Cash. Right? But it won't touch me because it doesn't change who I am. Because how I've really been trying to define who I am has nothing to do with any external event. So it keeps me grounded. It tries to keep me humble. It tries to keep me helping. And it tries to keep me allowing people to help me. So,
and on the bad days, it helps you remember who you are, and that it keeps you.
I mean, name my worst day. Name the worst day that could happen. Which one of those things won't be true?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. When you are working with fighters and you're coaching and teaching everyone from jiu-jitsu to, pro fight team, you obviously spend a lot of time on your own self and your mental health and your mental strength. Does that impact or inform what you do with your athletes and your
Yeah,
students?
I make them do this too. Like I make my athletes do this. Who are you? So that way we can get some space between the competition, right? The fight, we'll just call it the competition, and them, right? We can have some distance. You can go out and perform amazingly and get double gold. And guess what? It didn't touch those. It didn't touch who you are. It didn't touch you, right? You can go out and perform terribly. And what? Didn't touch you because none of was that double gold or that first round loss is what it is. Now it's just information. Now it just becomes information for us to use to become more skillful. So we don't try to use words like terrible, good, bad, right? And I know I said terrible because it's what everyone associates with, right? I try to use just two words: skillful and unskillful. I had an unskillful day. Great. What's the goal? Be more skillful. I had a skillful day. Great. What's the goal tomorrow? Be more skillful. The goal doesn't change. We're still looking at more skill.
Yeah, I had that realization sort of along the same lines. It was before a fight, and it was like the Friday. I'm working like my part-time job. Weigh-ins are Friday night, fight is Saturday night. And on Friday, while working, I realized no matter what happens in this fight, like I'm coming to work on Monday. So the only thing that changes in my life is whether there's a win or a loss on my record. So over the whole course of my life, this isn't a major issue. So like relax and just, you know what I mean? It's
This is what I like to say this to my students, right? You're a jiu-jitsu geek, right? Like me. I got it. And it's like super important to you, right? Jiu-jitsu.
yeah, I mean we do a show just to talk about it because couldn't get enough.
Who was the middleweight world champion in 2017 black belt?
Ooh, I don't. If you give me a minute to Google it, I could tell you, but I think that's the
No. Just
point.
man, you're a jiu-jitsu nerd. You're a nerd, man. You're a nerd like me.
Middleweight
Who was
2017. Oh, I don't know. Middleweight was
I'll make it easier for you. 2019 middleweight.
couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Yeah,
Couldn't right? No, nobody can.
yeah,
Only they can and their
yeah,
mom,
yeah,
right? Like nobody
yeah,
can. How important is it? How important must it be in the grand scheme of things,
yeah.
right? This world champion. How and maybe I used to say maybe I see it this way because I wasn't a world champion, but then I was lucky enough to get GSP on my podcast. And GSP, I was like, dude, you're a goat. Like there's three. It's you, John Jones, and Khabib. And this is the list right now.
We're gonna debate that list when you're done with this point, but keep going.
So it's and he was like, man, I can't say I was better ever than anybody I fought. I was just better in that moment on that day. I won't say that I'm better than them. I'm a better fighter than them. I will never say that. I was like, okay, if that dude can say that, then all of us can say that.
For real, for real. And that's one thing I've always admired about GSP is his mental approach on top of the physical, how they combine together. Just a complete fighter, not just in the sense of he's really good at wrestling and he's really good at boxing, he's really good at jiu-jitsu, but a complete athlete who did everything he could internally, mentally, and physically. And
Khabib the same way, right? Like there's a highlight of Khabib, and he's talking shit to Dana in between rounds, right? Like Dana, you must give me the title fight, like whatever he's saying, like how he did that for a
yeah,
while.
yep,
When Khabib's like, win, lose, doesn't matter. I know who I am.
yeah,
Because he knew who he was. Like getting back to what I was talking about
yeah,
earlier. The result of said Saturday night barely legal fight had no bearing on Khabib Nurmagomedov.
yep, yeah. And like to your point before, whether he had $100 million after his fighting career or $0, who he was as a
Look
person
what
is
he's
still
doing
the
now. He's
same.
coaching his homies.
Dude, he's like 7-0, right? Is he? Wait a second. Is he following the Eliot Marshall plan of retire and start coaching?
Don't start that because first of all, my name ain't up there with the goats. You said you want to ask me who I did the goat talk. So go ahead.
All right, so I always get. I'm gonna put a clip probably on Instagram of part of this conversation where I'm gonna say that Amanda Nunes belongs on the GOAT list, and people like rip it apart in the comments. People don't think Amanda Nunes is a pound for pound GOAT. I think she is, and I think Mighty Mouse belongs on the list.
Not anymore.
You don't think?
Fighting too long. This is what happens. This is what happens. People fight too long.
But can you blame him? I mean, he's
Roy Jones fought way too long. Roy Jones is an all-time goat. Like he was so good. He's like what he and Anderson are very similar, right? Like
yeah.
they were in their prime when they were the untouchables. God damn, they were just so untouchable. Khabib never lost a round, bro.
I know. I like this conversation because this conversation really kind of encapsulates the fun of doing a podcast like this, because everyone has a different opinion. So when I talk to different people, like, no one will ever agree. It's not a testable hypothesis or theory. It's all opinion, and it's fun to hear why other people think.
I'll agree with you with Amanda.
Yeah.
It's Amanda, it's Khabib, it's John Jones, and it's GSP. And GSP, I think, wouldn't have been one had he not come back and fucked up Bisping. He wasn't looking good towards the end of his welterweight career. But the way that he came back and just destroyed Michael Bisping, whoo, son.
I thought Johnny Hendricks beat GSP on the night. I thought he beat him.
I can see that argument.
GSP, man, like those last couple fights, the significant strikes he was taking was
bad.
It was like
bad,
the last 3 fights before the Bisping fight was like more significant strikes combined than his whole previous career.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, you're right. So him coming back really, like, okay, GSP, I see you.
It was an amazing fight, you know. It was an amazing fight. And look, John Jones is obvious, right? We just don't like John Jones.
Too many positive tests. And I know all the picograms and memes, and I do my best to be, we're talking about fighting. I don't objectively viewing, not looking at personal life, not looking at anything. The positive tests, man, and it's just, there's too much doubt. It's too much
Khabib
doubt.
never failed a test. Khabib never lost a round.
You're right.
So when we're, and look, this is, I don't like this conversation all the time because it's like you're shitting on dudes that are amazing.
I know.
Right? It's like, man, let me tell you about how bad LeBron James is when you're talking about Michael Jordan. And you're like, shit, dude, you have done nothing ever for 1 second as good as LeBron James does his whole life. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so I like, you know, we're being difficult here in our discussion.
Yeah.
Right. Of trashing amazing athletes.
Because I have to say something besides, nah, you're not right. Like, I have to give you some argument.
For me, it's Khabib, right?
Okay.
When you're going to go through those 4, he's never lost a fight. He's never lost a round. There's nobody else that's done that. Amanda's lost fights. GSP's lost fights. John Jones has failed drug tests and lost rounds. John Jones has split decisions.
You have a strong argument. I don't take away from your argument. I do think a big argument for Khabib is that as he's now retired, it's like when GSP first retired after the Johnny Hendricks fight. Like I said, I thought Johnny Hendricks beat him, so you could get into the, like, all right, there's people who are going to beat George eventually. With Khabib right now, I don't think anyone would beat him. So him retiring,
dude, I thought Justin Gaethje was the most dangerous one to do it.
We talked about it on this show, how much it was going to be the guy, and just
who the fuck walks down Justin Gaethje? He just walked Justin down with his hands down and didn't fucking care. And I mean, Justin's got fucking 2 bricks in each hand.
He had the perfect answer for Justin Gaethje that
nobody else was better. He just took him down. He just took him down. Like, it wasn't hard.
And then do the triangle instead of the armbar, so I don't have to break your arm in front of your parents. Like, that level of control. Yeah.
Against a killer.
Well, Eliot, we're talking MMA, so we'll stay here for a second because I can't let you go without talking some MMA stuff with you. What do you have? Who do you have in camp right now? Because I'm trying to track all of these guys moving around different camps, and with COVID and everything, who do you have in camp now preparing for stuff, and what's that looking like?
I'm no longer the head coach of the Elevation Fight Team. I let that go. I didn't make a big announcement or anything like that, right? No reason to. So, but I'm still friends with all the coaches, right? Like, so, but I'm just not the head coach. I think we have Austin this weekend, and Chase. You know, Chase did his camp with us, so he fights Arlovsky this weekend. And then I personally have Montana De La Rosa in camp. She
Okay.
fights June 5th against Ariana Lipinski. And man, what an interesting experience it's been for me to work with her. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life.
Really? What makes you say that?
We just gel, right? Like, uh, I have two boys, so it's interesting. Like having I have a female jiu-jitsu student that I've been working with since she was like 15 or 16. But and so not doing it so skillfully with her, like, because I didn't know how to deal with female athlete so much, or just females, and what a younger female needed from an older male and me, when it's not like no sexual type thing at all, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just teacher student relationship, and like almost parenting. So how to parent a female, um for my jiu-jitsu student in Anna. And then some of the mistakes that I made that I get to kind of redo here with Montana, even though she's older, she's in her 20s, but still like 20 years older than her.
Yeah.
But like when somebody comes into your life and you're like, damn, all right. And I work with her husband, like, her husband and I have a great relationship. And it's just one of those things. A person came into my life, and it's been an amazing experience of my life. Not that other people haven't been, right? But this is just what I have currently. I have Drew Dober, who just fought one of Khabib's dudes, and he and I have become super close. So those are the two MMA fighters that I'm working with. Like, so for me, it's all about the relationship.
Right. Right.
It's all about the relationship that I can have with the individual, and that's how. And that's kind of why I let go of the fight team, because I wasn't able to have these relationships. The work of the head coach of the fight team was so much that I didn't feel like I was showing up for my athletes and my jiu-jitsu students and my jiu-jitsu athletes like I needed to be. So I had to make this decision. And
So you just refocused a little bit more, like
how do I want to be showing up in each and every moment? And I had to choose that. And I chose to go deeper in with, I don't know, how do you say this? I only want to deal with people that want all of my smoke.
I got you.
Right. If I was going to say, like, the skillful of me, the unskillful of me, the benefits and the drawbacks of me, like all that stuff. I only want to deal with people who want all of this smoke, and I don't want to deal with people who don't. So everyone that I'm working with personally currently wants all of this smoke.
Eliot, it's been great to talk to you, man. I appreciate you coming on so much. Like I said, I've been a fan, and to be able to talk to you and pick your brain and hear what's going on in your head, it's really a fun conversation for me. Thank you so much for coming on.
Each and every time I get to talk about it, I think I learn a little bit about it, so thanks for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it. Thanks for answering my Instagram message. The way I see it is just the opposite. I have the privilege to talk to you. So, yeah, thanks, man. I greatly appreciate it.
Before I let you go, if anyone's not following you or isn't familiar with your podcast, just let everyone know where they can find you and give that information out if you could.
Eliot, at Fire Marshal 205. I actually have I have two Instagrams going kind of right now. The other one at Eliot Inspires. So whichever, follow, one is a mix of the Fire Marshal 205 is a mix of everything. The Inspires one is just inspirational stuff that I put out. What do I have? I've got my book, The Gospel of Fire, my podcast, The Gospel of Fire. You can get all that off my website, eliotmarshall.com. I have a webinar out, and that leads to like a course where, this idea of finding your purpose and finding your power. I believe that we need to find purpose, and first we need to find our power. We need to know this thing that makes us amazing in the world. What is it? What is it about Justin? What is it about Eliot? What is that thing? And then we need to go give it away, right? You need to go, hey, come on. So I have a webinar, that you can find. It's either on my Instagram or my website. So, go search me out, Fire Marshal 205, eliotmarshall.com. The Gospel of Fire is the book and the podcast. And I try to listen. I try to respond to everybody. So if you reach out to me, I try to really do my best to reach out to you. Don't do it on Facebook Messenger. I don't do that shit. Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope, and anybody that's listening, let's do this.